So I'm going to give you who the baseline is of each of those generations, what some of those characteristics are, and then you're going to work on a project. So World War II, born 1925 to 1935, their ages 72 plus. So you've got an age range for them. Many of your members, many of the people in your community, we only have a small percentage left in the workplace, but we have several board members that fall into this category. So ages 72 plus. Maya Angelou, classic example of that generation. And what you'll know about them is they went through the Great Depression. And as a result, when you go into their homes, you oftentimes find a stack of plastic buckets, right? And those plastic buckets, when you pull them out of the refrigerator, are not full of Cool Whip, right? They are full of leftovers, because that is something that shaped them from their childhood. That frugality and that wisdom of recycling and reusing has been their characteristic. And even though they're 80 years old, that's still part of their DNA. So that's a classic example of how a generational event creates a characteristic. It travels through time. Baby boomers were born 1946 to 1964. The ages 53 to 71. Steve Jobs, classic icon of this generation. And you remember that I talked about this generation being rebellious? This generation is rebellious. We know that. I mentioned it was a characteristic in general, but we know that they are still rebellious. So if you think about Steve Jobs, he wore blue jeans, Reeboks, and a black turtleneck, no matter where he went. That was classically rebellious in the era of a three-piece suit and tie. So that's what we know about this generation. Your symbol for them is going to be this black sheep, because they are always questioning things and going, oh, what about this piece of things? Or I'm not going to retire the way you say that I need to retire. I'm going to do it my own way. And we've got a classic marketing commercial coming up, and we're going to watch that commercial because they've captured the essence of baby boomer rebellion. So check it out. I'm not necessarily supporting them, but it's a classic commercial. It's one of those pieces you see it and you're like, I know what this is about, right? It's the rebellion of baby boomers. And I love the little kids' look, right? Dude, you're walking a pig. It's fantastic. So that's an example of baby boomers being rebellious. Then we get to Gen Xers. Gen Xers were born 1965 to 1981. Their ages 36 to 52. And your picture and the visual in your head is Jimmy Fallon as the classic icon of that generation, because he had to wait for a baby boomer to retire to finally move up in the world of late night TV. And that's been the Gen X story, is we have waited for baby boomers to retire so that we could step into leadership roles within our credit unions, within our work worlds. So that's your icon for this generation. Your symbol for this group is a box of mac and cheese, because this generation came home to no adult supervision, or less adult supervision than other generations. And so with two working parents, as long as I could make a box of mac and cheese, I was totally good, and I didn't actually need the help of anybody else. And we're going to see how that plays out in our workforce very soon. Then we get to millennials. They're born 82 to 2000. We have Prince William and Princess Kate changing our view of how royalty works. And that's millennials. They're always changing the view of our working worlds. Their ages 17 to 35. Your symbol for this group is a plastic but reusable water bottle. So we live near the University of Wisconsin-Madison. If you go on campus, 90% of students carry their own water bottle. And the reason they do that is they know that individually, they make very little difference. But if everybody does their part, the one thing we're asking them to do, they will make a huge difference in the world. And that's the power of this generation reaching out into our communities, is we can do this together, but we all have to play a role in this part. So those are your pictures, those are your images of each of those generations.